Yes.
Espinosa.
Here.
Schrader.
Here.
Haas. Landers.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Camitas.
Lunch.
Smooth.
It's good. Pictures of habit. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion for approval of the regular meeting agenda, please.
I'll make a motion for approval of the regular meeting agenda presented.
I'll second.
Camitas.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Landers.
Yes.
Haas. Schrader.
Yes.
Espinosa. Ware.
Yes.
Have no visitors or public comments. Mr. Cox?
Sorry.
No visitor or public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Can we have a motion for approval of the consent, well, yes, we'll need a motion and then we can have discussion. Motion and second, before we talk, we can have a discussion. So if we have a motion for approving consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of 5.1 disposition of minutes for April, 5.2 payment of bills, 5.3 district treasurer's report, 5.4 interest activity fund report and cafeteria report, and 5.5 personnel report.
Prior to, we have a second, prior to roll call, just the personnel report, this is the first time we're seeing this, right?
It was in the packet, and then this is updated.
Okay. It's
And,
updated, what are the new ads?
So, Socorro.
The,
what are
the
new?
new ad is the new hire and Brooke Paul's resignation. Is what I'm,
Okay.
Yeah, and we already had a conversation, somebody reached out and said, that the personnel report was harder to find in this package.
Yeah,
So we already had a
yeah.
conversation about making sure that it's, right after the minutes, right
Okay.
towards the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that that is a lot clearer in the future. Apologize.
So there is no new teacher hires for retirees yet?
So with respect to, our retirees, of the 5, through attrition, 2 of those positions are not being filled.
Okay.
The 5th grade position has been filled, that I believe was in February. One of the other special ed positions was filled, I believe, in April. And then this- The only outstanding position that we currently have right now is 6th grade math, and
Okay.
that's just a lack of candidates. And so we have.
So Lincoln with all like the switching and
Yep,
moving
we're
and
all-
whatever,
yep, we're all
there's
done, all
no
filled.
new teachers coming in?
There are, those have already been hired. If you like, I can, we were just talking about this. In my next report, I'll give you an updated roster of
Okay.
who's where. and-
Cause I actually
yeah.
like noticed the new hire thing was blank before tonight.
Yeah,
And I went
that
back
was
and
the new
looked
bit.
at April and March and I didn't see like any new hires. So I was just wondering when and where they were all at.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like tonight, very often though, there's an initial personnel report that goes out in the packet. And then if there's our hirings during the week, then we update that for the night of. And so I can make
And it
sure.
should be good
that
if we
comes out.
start emailing it, like, once you update it, just in case
So
there's.
there's a record of it.
Right, especially because it's
Yep.
part of consent, so if, like, we sit down and immediately get into consent and we didn't have a chance to look at it.
Okay.
That'd
Yep.
be ideal.
I had
Definitely start.
actually brought that up to Brad when it was just the 2 of us here, having, if, especially if we're not here, or if it gets brought here, that if we could get a copy of it sent, because I know that I had been asked, like, I asked myself, who did we hire for this position, and at a meeting at Blackstone, somebody said, well, we hired him back in February, but I didn't know we hired him, because I wasn't here at that meeting, so it was just one of the things I said,
Yeah,
Brad.
no, for sure. We can clean those things up.
We're not gonna hear from Stacy for contract for not filling those 2. We're not out of, you know, sometimes you have to fill can have certain amounts.
Like change the number of certified positions in the district?
Yeah, not an issue. We've been in contact with the association all through this. They very much understand that we have declining enrollment, and that, you know, we're trying to, we never want to, I say never, we're trying really hard not to have the conversation of, with declining enrollment, we have to reduce the number, without somebody retiring. And so they're appreciative of the fact that that's when we do look at that number, is when somebody's retiring. So we're not actually looking at removing somebody who's already started working for us. It's just not filling as they retire. And so they're appreciative of that attrition. They very much understand the way that all that maths.
My other question on this one was 14 cleaners plus 9 paint. Where does that compare to 23? Is that in line with what we've had before?
Yep.
It is, that
Yep.
many? Okay.
Yep, you got it.
And that goes for 6 weeks, pretty much?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you put the 4th of July in there and yeah, maybe 7, maybe 8, yeah, something in there. Yep.
No later than end of July though.
Right.
And that permanent sub, is that an additional position or is this a replacement position?
Yeah, it's, we've fluctuated since we've had the inception of the permanent sub position, we've kind of fluctuated between 3 and 5. This puts us back up to 5. We've gone down to 4, but we also anticipate having kind of some heavy needs out of those people for next year. Yeah.
I think one other thing that just, as we're discussing the personnel report, may be helpful is just a column that says if it's like a new or a replacement for so-and-so. Like that just might be helpful for us, cause
Sure.
sometimes I feel like I don't know.
Sure.
Especially since there can be months between when we get somebody's retirement or we hire somebody and then you don't remember who's who.
You bet.
Okay. Any other discussion?
We don't have a PE as of now.
Oh,
So it's PE.
so that's true.
PE in 6th grade.
James Weinberg just, yeah.
So we currently have 2 open
Yeah.
positions in the district. They're
Yeah.
posted on the job.
Yeah, and we're in the process of filling the PE. Yep, for sure.
Okay, so there's 2. Okay. All right, any other discussion? No? Okay, we have roll call, please.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Landers?
Yes.
Kuminas?
Yes.
Haas? Yes. Espinosa?
Yes.
Schrader? Yes. Rapp?
Yes.
Okay. 6.1 FOIA requests.
Yeah, we had one from Starbridge for purchase orders.
Okay. Administrator report.
Yeah, before Mr. Pierce takes over and presents, I want to be the first to release a little good news. As you know, we've been a part of the CEP lunch program that allows us to provide free breakfasts and lunches for our kids. That's set to expire at the end of this upcoming year. They're getting ready to change a bunch of kind of regulations on how that's calculated. So we actually withdrew from that and then recalculated everything and reapplied. So we just this week got approved for a new 4 years.
Oh, nice.
So now instead of this being the last year of that, that's going to extend to 2030. So super good news. And we'll get a nice press release on that next
Just
week.
say that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Of course.
Cool, Mr. Pierce.
Evening, everybody. I will be talking about just some curricular updates, everything kind of going on. Just kind of make sure you guys are aware of where we're at, kind of different programs. One of the many hats I get to wear. And I know there's a lot here, so I'm going to hit the highlights for a lot of it. And obviously, as you go through, whether it's now or later, anytime, please do ask any questions you have, email, whatever, I'm available. So overall, the big picture for this last year, it kind of comes from teacher surveys, it comes from the 5 essential stuff we hear back from kids, it comes out of our CSS committee, which really looks at the consistency across the district. We identify our needs, kind of look at, where do we go. So this particular year, some of the big things we looked at, science and social studies, the change in instructional time, especially in 5th grade, was a big deal. Curricular alignment, we continue to work on that. When Brad put in the CSS committee, we started going, oh, there's a gap here, oh, there's a gap here. There's scope and sequences that were put together a decade plus ago, and a lot of it seemed almost like a compliance piece more than a functional piece. So we're really trying to make sure that we have it updated, but also, helpful, and not just something to look at, especially as teachers do retire. And that's always one of the biggest challenges is we get a new great piece of curriculum, and we go through all the training, and everybody gets on board, and then people retire, or people move on for whatever reason, and now there ends up being these gaps and inconsistencies, and so having something that we can kind of point to, go, this is what we're doing, this is why, it's helpful. We're working on writing development, some technology integration and how that looks across the grades, and then continued support for multilingual learners. Of course, obviously special education is a factor in all this. That's not my area especially, that's Kara Rutherford, and I'm sure she'll answer any questions you have as well. I know some of the key programming she's doing, but being that that's her domain is something I'm not covering tonight. So looking at science, one of the big things is we updated to really have a foundational science program for the first time in many years. We went with Open Sci Ed, which is not me just trying to be a catchy slogan. I'm sorry, I don't want to block the camera. It's actually the name of the program. It's one of the top reviewed programs. It's open platform, so it is free use, but it is one of the top rated programs. What's nice about it is some of that funding we would have put into buying all those textbooks, we can now put into actually doing science. So its focus is the NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards, which puts a lot of hands-on stuff in the classroom. So we've been buying materials for the teachers to use. One of the big changes this year as well, of course, was 5th grade having daily science. And there was definitely some learning, growth going on with that early in the year as everybody's kind of getting into the rigmarole of it. The same things we used to see in 6th grade, all the adjustments of, now we're transitioning class periods, and now what does real science class look like as opposed to what they'd done earlier, is happening in 5th grade. And so, it's kind of a tough year because it's happening 6th grade, the kids who had it for the first time, now it's happening 5th grade for the kids. So it's a double whammy. But I think everybody adjusted really well. We're hearing a lot of great feedback from kids, a lot of great feedback from parents. Lynette Pillar, who's the 5th grade science teacher, I think for a lot of people, it really we saw how impactful it was with the NASA launch a couple months ago. The kids were enthralled. They were tracking it, and it was a whole thing. And that's exactly what we want. We want people to live the content. And it's one of those things that connected in a way that, you could have done it, as a happenstance when you had science, maybe 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. But being a daily class, they were to do updates. They got really passionate about it. And we're really excited to see eventually our IAR data, does the ISA, ISA data, Online Science Assessment, which is 5th and 8th grade, because it's the first time we've actually had real science class in 5th grade. So we're curious how that's going to impact those scores, but then particularly track that. So when this group of 5th graders becomes 8th graders, what kind of growth can we see there? And of course, next year, 4th grade, going to departmentalization, is going to have more frequent science and social studies as well. But it is one of those things that's, again, we're looking for another great impact of that change. Social studies, the big thing is we started looking at it with the changes with 5th grade. Social studies teacher this year was Vicki Game. With her retiring, and then with 4th grade, for a good chunk of the year, we weren't sure if it was going to departmentalize or not, where we were in the conversation. So we decided to basically carry over the current programming we had, which is SAVIS for 2 through 5 and Nat Geo for 6 through 8. Continue that for one more year. So next year we will be going through a review process with all the teachers to look at what programming is best, what curriculums are out there. One of the great things is, particularly with having departmentalization, you end up with content specialists, particularly in social studies, which is such a dynamic class of conversations and connecting into what's going on in the world. A lot of times the book ends up being more of a guide when you have the quality teachers, which is great, but we also want to make it, so that regardless of who the teacher is, that they have something that it could be turnkey ready if need be. Especially if a new teacher comes out of college, they're not going to have the same skill set as, say, Sarah Henkel or Brandon Shepard, who've been doing it for like 20 years. We want to get them there, and they're a great resource, but we want to make sure we get great quality programming. One of the things I didn't put in here, a couple of years ago, we had worked with the high school. They're a freedom school. It's a civic-minded idea, and we kind of gone down that path a little bit. They're like, we're not doing middle schools right now. And really all it means is just the way we approach education, the way we approach particularly social studies education. But they finally opened that up to middle schools, and they actually reached out specifically to us because we had a connection with the high school. And that's something that we're kind of poking around. There's no commitment yet to that, but that's something that I will share more information as we go down that path. Again, the more things we can do to bring attention, think about all the things that Sarah Henkel and Brandon have done with the civic engagement. Go back a year or so ago, the walk to school, and they're mapping things out. Those are all things that we like to highlight. Math, this was a quiet year for math. I like it. They've been in the same content for a few years now. The biggest thing that happened this year with math is we expanded IXL, which is a supplementary program used. We're really using it first grade up, although kindergarten does have access to it if they want. And what it does is it adapts to kids' abilities. And so if you're a top tier kid or a middle tier or at the bottom, when you log in, it's going to pace you based on your abilities. It's going to give you practice, it's repetition. So if I'm a teacher and I'm working with these 3 kids over here, these kids can continue to work at their pace and at their level. And so it's kind of a nice little program. It goes and supports. We also use it for English for Northbrook Summer School. It's one of those things that becomes a program that they can kind of pace and work on. But one of the big things is with some of that change over at Lincoln, some new teachers coming into the district, we have already arranged some coaching sessions with HMH, which is the math company. And it's up to us how we choose to utilize that. We can actually schedule it. You're going to meet them, this day or this day, or it could be a little more open-ended where the person will reach out and go like, hey, I need help with this concept. One of the things we're really pushing is with this being year 3 is utilizing the team resources. And that's kind of the great thing about particularly K3 is that they're all teaching the same stuff at more or less the exact same time. So you have people who've been in the system, who know the system, know the shortcuts, knows what makes sense, knows how to explain it. So we really want to utilize their strengths with the new members. And the great thing is a lot of people coming in have experience, just maybe not particularly with our program. So that should be a quick update for them. Technology, this would be Tina Musgrove with STEAM, Stephanie Kleckner with library/computers, and then Mary Cooper-Schmidt at the junior high with technology classes. It's kind of all 3 of those together. Again, we're really working on setting up our scope and sequence. One of the feedbacks we've heard through CSS committee, through teacher surveys, is teachers are like, well, I really wish kids knew how to do X. And it could be use a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, find a website, send an email. And so we had these conversations of looking at when we started teaching them in our scope and sequence, but also, well, why are we going to teach something in 2nd grade if nobody's going to use it until 4th? What other skills could we be doing then? So really trying to kind of unwind that yo-yo back and kind of go, okay, where do we need to start? So they've been meeting a couple half days here and there to really kind of start laying that foundation. We're looking at the teacher surveys, and it's been really helpful. And the 3 ladies, the 3 teachers have been great. They're really excited about it because again, they want to make sure that what they're teaching the kids is helpful across all the other teachers, so they understand that the skills they're working on there apply across the curriculum. So it's kind of a cool thing to watch what's going on there. One of the big things that we're going to continue to work on next year is kind of creating a common language that they're going to talk about in keyboarding in classes like that they want teachers to use too. So it's not even about having to do like, oh, I need you to do extra work. But for example, if a teacher's opening a website in class using the correct terminology that they're using in keyboarding and technology classes so that everybody's hearing the same language. We don't want somebody saying, well, you click on the little boxy over here, and somebody else saying, well, you're gonna click on the tab. We want to use the correct language, and that's one of those things that's good, common curriculum, but it's also a conversation we've had a lot in our CSS is common language needs to be the same. And whether that's based in the content in curriculum we're using, or that's something we agree to, it's one of those things that it's better for the kids so there's not confusion. I had teacher A and they said this, and I had teacher B and they said this, because then they all end up confused, and some get it through context clues, others don't. So we want to work on that. The big thing, especially the second half of the year here, was ELA and writing. This is the second year of Amplified CQLA for our K2, first year for 3-5. And the reviews of it for most of the teachers, it is a hard thing to adopt to at first because there's some real rigor to it. But it's also something that they're already going wow, the kids are a lot farther than we thought they would be at this point. This is not where they normally were. And that's nothing against our old curriculum. They just really like the new curriculum. But one of the issues that will always continue to be, and I don't care what reading program you're looking at, it's going to be the writing piece, because it's a reading program that has writing with it. Came out with CSS conversation in February. So we put together some surveys and talked to teachers. And one of the things we did at one of our half days, I can't remember if it was February or March, we had every team kind of go through and what writing are you doing across the curriculum? Because if writing is a skill, it needs to be happening everywhere. It can't just be happening in isolation in an ELA section where you do a little bit, 20 minutes of writing. So, every grade level went through and kind of gave down different examples of types of writing they're doing, the length they're expecting of it. Is it a sentence? Is it multiple sentences? Is it pages? What's the goal of it? How is it graded? Then obviously again the subject. And so it's one of those things, we can see this is what they're doing in social studies, because it's going to reinforce those skills elsewhere. It's also, you have to explain yourself, especially to get the higher grades. You have to explain your thinking. So it's one of those things that you're going through and we're trying to understand what everybody's doing. We took that information and then we had a writing committee meeting at the end of April and really kind of talked about is this something we need to go out and get a supplemental writing program, or is it something that we can really hone in on with what we have and just do better with it and be more explicit with it? The conversation went around and at first, it's kind of this fun conversation. People are well, I don't like this, but it does this, this, and this. And it's when we realize that the shortcomings are more internal. And so our solution for that is one, it's that common language. Again, a simple thing, and I think I can't remember if I put an example in here or not when I was putting it together. Do you say uppercase or capital letter? Or do you say a big letter? That matters. Because again, if 5 different teachers say 5 different things, it's just going to get confusing. We want to be consistent with what's in our curriculum, because that's what's going to be exposed to them over and over and over for years. So it's that common language. Again, you're talking about writing. Are you saying, top, middle, bottom, or are you saying upper? Those are just those little things. So working on some of the, documents of creating a common language, and then, really making sure that, hey, especially if people come in, this is the wording we're using, so make sure we're all on the same page. But then the other part of that is I've already booked up with Amplify to bring in some more coaching. Kind of the growing of the content is going to be, they'll come in, they'll observe, they'll do a little modeling, and really kind of check in individually with teams to kind of really start to grow those skills. I think particularly K2, since this is going to be year 3 for them, they've had a strong understanding and a strong grasp of what they're doing, but they're all kind of going I don't have questions about what to do, I just want to know how to do it better. How do I continue to do those things? And we have a lot of teachers who are online, Facebook, groups and everything else, looking for tips and ideas, because that's what teachers do, right? Once you have it down, how do I get better? How do I grow? How do I continue to take this to the next level? So that's really exciting, and we're going to continue to meet next year and kind of check in on that and see how that goes. The last thing, one of my multiple hats, ESL and bilingual education. We continue to provide programming throughout the district. Again, if you're not aware, up through 2nd grade we have bilingual classroom, and then after that it's more or less ESL. We were lucky enough last year to add an intervention person, ESL interventionist over at Lincoln for the 2 through 4. That paired with the one we already had at Northbrook for 5 through 8. And we've used different models. So Lincoln focuses a lot on the developing kids, the kids who are just figuring out how to read, write, listen, speak. We're at the middle school. Historically, we've been working on the bubble kids, the kids who are doing well but just haven't reached the mastery level. And according to the state, the mastery level is the exit number of 4.8 on the access test, which is the English proficiency test given to all ESL identified kids. And so one of the things we've been tracking is how those kids do. And so when we look at our scores, this is the nice thing about Access. It's done in January into February. We actually get the raw data before school's out, which is great, not only so I can present to you guys, but we can celebrate the kids during the school year. And we actually have just done it. Northbrook had theirs today, Lincoln had theirs earlier in the week. We can celebrate the kids' growth and their achievements. And nothing against IAR, but telling a kid in October, hey, you did really well last March, with a different teacher now. I mean, it just becomes one of those things. So a couple highlights from this year's Access. 10% of our students exited. Again, that's the goal of programming. We still continue to monitor them. We can still continue to provide supports if need be, because it's not just, hey, you exited, then to the wind with you. We do track them. To give you an idea of the growth that's happened, go back a few years, we were only at 6%. And now the beautiful challenge of this is, if you exit, awesome, you're no longer taking that test. And so the best kids exit, and then we start fresh with the next group next year. So it's not like the IAR, hey, you did really great, and you do really great the next year and the year. So the best top kids exit the program, and we just continue to refresh. 52% of our students improved their scores by 0.5 or more. And again, go back a couple of years ago, really before we did the Lincoln component piece, then again how we shifted some programming at Northbrook, it's up from 33%. That's great growth. And it's one of those things that our ESL teachers, one of their side pieces of all of that, they have to be advocates for the ESL children in their classrooms. And it's one of those things that if you are an ESL kid, particularly up through 3rd grade, you are with an ESL certified teacher. And they have extra training, extra qualifications. But the other kind of cool thing here, and that's the little thing on the very back, we did find out we received the Bilingual Education Award from ISB. And that little infographic, I won't go into all of it. But it was a few different component pieces. One, we earn it based on fiscal responsibility and use of Title III funds, which is for ESL and bilingual learners. So it's use of that. But it's also things like access, test proficiency, growth. Basically, hey, you guys are heading in the right direction and doing good things for ESL and bilingual kiddos. So that was really kind of awesome. I do like to highlight particularly our bilingual team. Obviously, everybody in the ESL team, all of our teachers are important, but our ESL team is amazing, but particularly the bilingual teachers, which is a key component of that award, which would be Petra Estrada, Elizabeth Quintana, and Becky Kramer. Then also give a shout out to Erica Courier and Gloria Bauer, our ESL interventionists, who do a lot of programming. And again, all teachers are important, all ESLs are important, but particularly those ladies have been really setting the benchmark. And when we look at access scores, for example, we had 10 kids exit from K4. We've never had that kind of numbers. That's because of the work they're doing. And so it's just one of those things we're really excited about that. Overall, looking at next year, is a whole thing. Again, continue to look at instructional opportunities in the core classes. We're going to continue our alignment work. That never really ends. It's one of those things, it's not like, oh, we're in year 4 of everything, we're just done. As new people come in, new ideas, what do we need to look at? And then again, the big thing is going to be student growth and achievement. I didn't put it in here, just kind of give you 2 heads up, and usually I come back around October, November to talk. Might be more around next year as I have to shadow Brad for my superintendent classes. But 2 state, federal things kind of changing. One is the state report card is going to look different next year. The Illinois board passed it, now has to go to the federal government. So 2 big changes in the report card that we're expecting. One is going to be how schools are labeled. Are they, excellent, targeted, commendable? It used to be like only the top percentage of people could be, the top tier, and everybody else. You basically are competing against everybody else to be the best of the best. That's gone. Now it's going to be you earn whatever label you earn. So if 100% of the schools in Illinois were truly commendable, okay, that's what it's going to be. But there's still going to be targeted systems like that. They're going to get additional state supports. But there's changing the names, and they're going from like 4 levels to 5. The other big thing is going to be the attendance. Attendance is still a major focus for the state, has been for years, but particularly post-pandemic. It used to be you got penalized, and we got penalized, and other districts got penalized for absenteeism, for kids being gone too much. Regardless of the reason, too many absences that we got penalized and our scores came down. They're kind of flipping the script. It's no longer the stick, it's a carrot. So now they're going, well, you have more than 10% are absent. It's like, congratulations, you have 90% who are there. And they're going to, basically allow you to, it can bump you up in the ratings by having higher attendance, but it's not necessarily going to drag you down in the ratings for having poor attendance. That doesn't change our concern, that doesn't change our focus. We want kids in the seats. We know school is one of the best places for these kids. The other part, that was that one. The other part was access tests. So they changed the access test. This was the first year the new version of the access test went out. And so this July they're doing a standard setting. And so they're going to adjust basically the cut scores for access tests. That's not going to change the outcomes we have already. They said basically use the data we have now from the state on who passed. But what that could mean is that eventually Illinois changes that 4.8 number for proficiency. And honestly, we don't know what it's going to do. IAR scores went down. Remember last year when I meant to be proficient, I had to do less. But the science test went up. With access, they've been really focusing on the English language descriptors, basically English language development skills, and that's really rigorous. So there's a lot of conversation that the score rate might go up, what they expect people might go up. But we don't know, and obviously I'll share that once we know more. And a great partner in that is our ECRA, our data partner, because they have an ESL consortium across Illinois. It actually has more participants and students involved than the entire Chicago Public School District. Which gives us a greater data set than basically anybody else in Illinois. And so as we look at data, they're going to be crunching those numbers for us and going like, look. And we get excited because, well, I get excited because that would be any questions or thoughts or anything you want me to follow up on? Or?
So I have a couple.
Yeah.
All right, so the HMH math, is that into?
For the higher grades, yes. The lower grades is go math.
Okay, all right. And then, and as I had brought this up, it was another thing that I had brought up when it was just Brad and I, not knowing that this was what you're actually going to talk about today. Can we get this on like a sheet that says like when we adopted it, maybe what we had before?
Yeah, I have that, yeah.
I thought you did, okay. And then with there being the 2 different curriculums for the ELA and writing, the Amplify for K-5 and the Into Reading for 6-8. Are we seeing a gap, or do you predict that we're going to see a gap, especially with terminology? Especially with terminology and.
Well, that's where the advantage of again the CSS committee, and then again we also have language, like so ELA teams meet, social studies teams so we have these content meetings, and that's one of the things we've been working on for the last 2 or 3 years is that common language. And that's really closed those gaps. For example, one of the things I had an example on there is said CER, which is claim, evidence, and reason, which is an approach to writing that you basically yes. I'm doing this, then doing this, and then doing that. Mm-hmm. We switched that a few years ago from race, which yes. sounds more risque than it is. It's just race it's the same idea, just different terminology.
Yes, it's like cups and math.
Yeah, we had switched to be in alignment with the high school. We do these alignment conversations with the high school. Again, it should make sense to start here in kindergarten. We should try to work in a logical pattern. So we wanted to work with kind of what they were discussing, so we kind of switched to do what they wanted. And our teachers were like, that's fine. It's the same idea, just different acronym. But again, try to get everybody on the same page.
Yes.
So that's something that we've been working on.
Okay, and then I have 2 other questions. So this chart here, what you were just talking about, like what is, like example, like what grade is this?
That one right there is 6th grade.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then My other question regarding the ESL and bilingual, how many do we have in each program? Or each grade that are in each, and then like the number that, for example, like historically have exited out? You know what I mean, like this current
Yeah.
group of third graders, they started in whenever they started.
Yeah.
And then they started with this amount, and then how many have exited out and that? Because we still, obviously, even if they meet the 4.8,
Yeah.
we still need to still represent that, you know, there's still Spanish speaking at the house and like
Yeah, so-
having that ESL
yeah, and-
background
and
as a teacher.
So the
I
way the
understand
the
that.
state, we have to track it with the state, and this was we had a Title III audit this
Yeah.
year. And so it's one of those things that we do with them is if you exit, we track you for 3 more years.
Yeah.
And so we look at, you know, IAR scores, academic grades,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, that is one of those things, it's not just cut bait and be like, hey, you passed, no longer a problem.
Yeah.
We
You
wanna make
still
sure
are.
that you're being successful. We don't want one test to define everything you could ever need or who you are. Now, statistically, if you pass the access score, you tend to be some of our top performing academic kids, regardless of your primary or your first language. And it's actually been one of the big complaints, and that's why we don't have the data yet, because this is a new version of access. We knew, for example, when you look at the data, in order to pass kindergarten access, you actually would have had a score in the 80th percentile of all English ability, regardless of your primary language. So you have to beat out basically 80% of all kindergartners. That seems a little unrealistic to expect of people, because in 4th and 5th grade it drops to about 50%.
Yeah, I
Is
think
what
it
you
used
have to
to
be
be like 60,
proficient at.
yeah.
And so like that's a conversation, and then, so this new test is supposed to be addressing that. We don't, I'll say,
Yeah,
we
I
don't know
just
yet.
didn't know if that was another thing, like you could at some
Yeah.
point get us.
Yeah,
like,
I can go back
like
and
you're
sort
like
the track.
about data too.
Yeah.
Like I like
Yeah.
like how many did we start with this? Like this year had this many,
Yeah,
and we had this many, or how many do we have in each class,
yeah.
in each grade that are?
Well, I can honestly say one of the things that's been challenging, and it's kind of the nice thing of being audited, is that you get really good with the paperwork.
Yes.
And you look at all the stuff, and so you know we've found some people moving into the district, particularly who came from other districts that were identified as English learners, but then got lost in the shuffle and they have no access scores. They never
We talked about
exited.
that
Yeah,
way.
and we've had a few of those cases, and so we work with our principal consultant for the state, Title III, and she's amazing. And she's like, okay, well, you'll screen them, and then if they get identified, you program. That's, I mean, they'll take the test. And a lot of those families are like, I don't want services, but they still have to take the test. We
Yes.
still have to track them. And again, realistically, especially when you get to the middle school, our ESL teachers, maybe our science teacher here, our social studies teacher here, our math teacher here, that kind of stuff, they're getting overall wraparound services. And that's one of the parts of our professional development too, is that everybody has to get ESL training, regardless if you have an ESL certificate, because everybody's going to have ESL kids, and we're responsible for all the kids, not just, you know, the native English speakers.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I can pull up some of the data and get that to you, or get that to everybody. I think it's just Holly, but.
Sorry
Yeah.
for all the questions.
Well, no, it is.
A lot of
it
it's also my ESL
Well, that's like,
teaching
I said,
background.
you know, and I talk about like, you know, hey, go back years. I started creating a master. That's not Excel. I guess it's Google Sheet. Where every single year, like this was their score last year, this was the score this year, and I share that with all the ESL teachers so they can see their kiddos and go like, oh, this is a growth they're doing. This is, you know, and it becomes a conversation too of, does it surprise you? Is there a discrepancy? Like, so one of the things we identified by doing that is a lot of the kids can do really well on speaking, because you put a little headset on and it's like they're working McDonald's drive-thru, and some of the kids actually pretend like they are. They get really well at that. They do pretty okay at speaking, or maybe listening. It's the reading and writing.
Yes.
But again, it's also part of the conversation of we need to do better we know that writing is one of our weaknesses, and that's part of the writing committee's focus and all those things. And so that's not an EL issue, that's a district issue. And again, we see that in IR, some of the writing weaknesses. And so one of the nice things with Amplify is that new series, there is a strong skills component. There's the knowledge piece, which is like they're learning about India or whatever, but they're also having to apply it in a way that they never had to apply that kind of rigor at those lower grade levels. So,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, any new curriculum, it takes a little while to matriculate up. And so we're again really excited next year. The second graders, hey, they've had it since foundation. They had K and 1. They're going to have it, you know. So the growth that we're expecting in that is exponential.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
I have a couple.
Yes, ma'am.
Under the technology one, the second sentence says the work's intended to ensure students develop practical and digital literacy skills, directly supporting classroom instruction and future readiness. And I know for us this year, we've had significant challenges of students and how they're using technology appropriately or inappropriately. There's been discussions about what that might look like with the classroom, Chromebooks in the classroom or at home. How is that major problem being addressed earlier potentially as part of this digital literacy?
And so like one of the challenges is a lot of, especially with Tina and Stephanie Kleckner, they're doing desktops. So it's right. It's not so, but it is about the appropriate use. It is, technology is a tool. It is a privilege. It is not a right. You have to learn how to use it appropriately. And so that's one of the things we're adding in there is very explicit, like how you turn it on appropriately. What's your responsibility, especially when you are using a shared device? Like I believe 4th grade and maybe some of them in the middle school will be doing like a shared Chromebook rotation a little bit. And so once you get on that Chromebook, laptop, desktop, doesn't matter what it is, your first responsibility is to check it. And because you become responsible, if you don't say anything and then you turn it in later and somebody's like, well, look, there's a key missing, they're gonna point the finger at you. Well, I didn't do it. Well, you didn't say anything was wrong. And so some of those, learning those basic skills, but also basic etiquette. It's no different than, I don't think anybody enjoys having to be everyone wants to just do the cool stuff and work on the cool things, but you have to learn to walk before you run. You have to learn the bike with the training wheels. And so I think they get that. And so I know like Kleckner and Tina Musgrove, particularly other lower graded, are, again, we're kind of working on the language, but again, that language they're going to use in their rooms, but then also they want the other teachers to be using as well. Of this is how we go about this is why it's important, and kind of track those things. But it is that conversation. I know we've had a little bit with CSS, a little bit as an admin team of, the ebb and flow of things where, for a while everybody has to have technology all the time. And now it's kind of back the other way a little bit. Mm-hmm. And there has to be a healthy medium there because kids are living in a digital age and they're going to be digital citizens. And so it's kind of find that balance. And I don't think anybody has it down perfectly yet, and we continue to struggle with that. But we continue to deal with those struggles. And every time something pops up and we have conversation, we talk with the IT guys, we talk to other districts to kind of go, what are you guys doing? Trying to find a middle ground. As I'm sure I know you're familiar with what's going on this week.
Sure.
We go.
Have the conversations come up at all yet around, and I know this is such a giant elephant in the room terminology, but AI and how we're using, not using?
No, absolutely. So Brad and the IT guys, I'd say about 4 or 5 months ago, really started having the AI conversation. Particularly Justin and Will had been out to a technology convention, I think it was in November. And we already kind of started loosely talking about it as an admin team, what are our expectations, what it look like. And so through our technology committee, they've really the last few months put together the foundations for our AI policy. And so the plan right now is one of the first 2 days back in August, our teacher workshop days, they will present kind of our expectation for teacher use as we continue to kind of flesh out our student use policy. For example, the only appropriate acceptable AI in our district is going to be Gemini, because it's through the Google Suite that we have some more bumpers we can put on. But again, it's that conversation about, for teachers, you're not using anything that's identifiable student data, again, FERPA rights and privacy. But we're going to have conversations about what would be appropriate use as a teacher to use that as. Again, we don't want them, I shouldn't say we don't want them, putting stuff in and just, hey, grade this kid's essay. Well, then you don't know what the kid's actually doing. I understand it makes life easier, but we don't want that. So we were talking more about how could we take an article and create questions? How could you take something and make it differentiated for an ESL kid versus a low reader, those kind of skills. And so our conversation right now is, and we'll map it out for sure in June, but in September at our half day, we were talking about having a workshop with teachers of practical applications for AI. Again, obviously we can't control what teachers do outside of these walls, but we want to make sure that what they're doing inside the walls with AI is functional, appropriate, and best for kids.
Yeah, and they know, and that all of our staff knows really what the most critical pieces are of using it not just, that they can't just use it, for a finished product. They tell it to do something, it spits something out, they just go and do it, that there has to be, a human end piece to it, what they can and can't do with inputting data and inputting prompts and all of that. So, we've had some really good committee meetings on it with, like a dozen or more, maybe 15 staff members on that committee, and then we'll have a lot of implementation to start this week.
So I love all that for staff. I'm just wondering if the conversation also parallel around student use. I know some districts early on were like, we're gonna ban everything, but like it's the reality is that kids do use it. And so if we say don't use it and then we're gonna invest in the technology to make sure they didn't use it, then are we, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like how do you?
that's an unfolding part of the conversation. We're not, that's kind of the next part of the conversation. For sure.
I think we wanted to set the framework for what we expect of teachers who are they're gonna have to model that.
Right.
Well, and, yeah, you're absolutely right. I go back, it's been 8 years I've been in the classroom, but I remember, when math teachers are like, I don't even grade math homework the same way anymore because you can Google every single question and they'll give you step by step. And so, okay, well, I understand that. And so again, a lot of teachers have switched, especially when they're writing on the Chromebook. The writing is going to happen in the classroom because they can watch it on GoGuardian, they can see it in real time, make sure you're not opening anything else or any of that kind of stuff. Of course, that then means the only writing they could do is here because you're not trusting the work that's divvied out there. And what's stopping a kid from going home and pulling up Claude or ChatGPT or whatever on their own device and giving me 10 ideas on this? So yeah, it is that tough reality of it's in front of us. It's not going away. The hard thing is like it's growing at such an exponential rate. It's like nothing we've seen before, and it has all the possibility. But we also know kids and humans make impulsive decisions, make bad decisions, make easy decisions. Again, as an adult, like I've ran things like, hey, I need to find articles. Can you give me 10 articles that might be relevant to this? But then like Brett said, like it's still my job to go find and read those articles and see is it relevant.
Right. So it can be useful to
yes.
kids. And I don't want us to take the stance that we're like, no, right?
Oh no,
like,
it's
not going away.
No. Well, that's what that importance of
There
the
are
Gemini
definitely
is.
districts that are further down the AI road than us, but there are a lot of districts that aren't even having these conversations. And so, I do feel that we've got a good, plan laid in place. We've got a lot of people in the conversation. We're looking forward.
And the only other question was you kept talking about, maybe we have two more, common language, decisions across whether they're curricular resources or even just the language that's being used in the class. And I love that continuity. Are we taking that same conversation to make sure that we aren't going, oh, well, we're going to say this way, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then when you get to high school, it's totally different. Like, is that conversation?
Yeah, so usually we usually have 2 shared articulation days or meeting days with the high school.
Yeah.
And again, it kind of changes from year to year. Sometimes it's more of a morale team building situation with them, but usually at least one's always an articulation where anymore it's usually 7th and 8th grade kind of meet with them, continue to map out the policies. But yeah, it's that shared kind of common language. A lot of it, as we worked with Denise and Joe over there, we don't want them just to tell us this is what we want. So that's not fair because again, we have the foundation, and so it is this give and take. But it's a lot of that kind of conversation like this matters to them, and it doesn't matter to us. We don't have any anything really in that race. We're like okay, again like the CER we switched to. Okay, it's still getting the same concept. If that makes it easier for them, cool. And again, I think about Brandon and Sarah particularly have done a lot of great work with the social studies department. The science department's coming along. And again, you're finding out like this is their gaps in science that they're finding like, oh, we could do more of this. Okay, we can program it. It still has to meet our needs.
Right.
But again, those are small changes that go a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, get a chance to talk with Paula. The articulation we did with them in, this year's a bit of a blur in the second half. April, I think it was April we met with them. It was one of those things, it was a master class by our 8th grade teachers, really just explaining why these things matter, explaining the kids and the data, and the high school was just like awesome. They're really appreciative of that.
Can I piggyback on yours before you do your last one? So that same common language discussion, like when you were talking about it, and I was thinking like how great that is, like to set them up for success when they switch teachers and switch grade levels, and get to the high school. My only fear is that, like your example of like capital letter and uppercase, like in my head I'm thinking of like, for example, citations, like learning MLA versus APA and stuff like that, and then students get out into outside of Mendota,
Yeah.
or in college, are they going to be used to only hearing one language because we don't expose them to it's also known as, or you may also hear it be called this because we're so focused on the common language, then they don't ever hear other.
Yeah, I think,
that
and
makes sense.
it's not that we don't have anything explicit like, hey, once they get to 7th grade, you can also introduce, it's kind of like, I think about, you learn multiplication and everything was X. And then like
Yeah.
5th or 6th grade, it also could be a dot. You're
Right.
like, what?
Yeah.
Why didn't you just teach me the dot in the first place? So it's kind of the same idea. I think there's a natural kind of conversation, but like, for example, like the MLA, like we only use MLA, and I'll pick on Jordan Zolzer, for example. He's in the sciences. As a social studies guy, I use APA. As a doctoral student, I use APA. That's,
Yeah.
I had a professor once, like, we do Chicago Turabian.
Right.
Okay, I've never heard of that. I found the book and be like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so part of it is you teach them the skills to be able to adapt to whatever. But like we only use MLA because everything is language arts focused, which is MLA, modern language authors. But like Jordan Zolzer, when he does a research paper, he works with Missy Kroll and intentionally uses MLA to support what we're doing in the schools. And most of the high school, and again, unless I don't know everything that they do for all their subjects, but most of it's going to be MLA, just because again, most of the English teachers are doing MLA for research and papers.
Sure.
But again, like once you
And
go to
that
college,
was-
yeah.
That was more just like.
Yeah,
an
no,
example
yeah, I
of
know,
how
I know,
bad-
yeah.
And I can't even think of a good example of something that would hinder our students when they leave Mendota, like maybe there isn't one and I'm just overthinking it, but I just didn't want us to get too used to not throwing out some
Put
of
the
other.
blinders on everything else, yeah.
Like especially with technology, I know I've been to workshops where we're learning to use, and they like talk about, I can't even remember what they called it, but one of the drop down menus, they were calling it some word that I'd never heard, and I was like, wait, what? So I just didn't want us to like zone in so much that then they're not able to use context clues or hear other things, and I'm sure all the teachers are doing
I know, I think
great
that's a
job of
logical
that, but
conversation to have with our committee, but as well, particularly I'd say around 7th or 8th grade, where like, now we've laid that foundation, understand you may also hear it as this.
Yeah.
We're using this, but understand that this could be the same thing. And again, I think it's some of those things, because usually it will happen organically, a kid will say something like, well, my mom called it this, or my dad said this, my brother said this. And then it's like, well, okay, yeah, that's, and going to use an example, like not trying to, Gulf of Mexico versus Gulf of America.
Right, yeah.
Well, right now, all our textbooks still say Gulf of Mexico. The international community still says Gulf of Mexico. And that's not saying one's right or wrong,
Right.
but everything they're going to have from our stuff says Gulf of Mexico. The teacher's not going to say Gulf of America is wrong, but it's that conversational point. Like, you're right. Hey, the United States adopted it. It changed it to this. Then you can have a little bit of a conversation. Like, okay, I'm not going to take points off if you say Gulf of America, but understand I'm saying Gulf of Mexico because this.
Yeah.
It becomes a quick teachable moment.
My only last question was just a broad, I know it's embargoed, but what does our early 5 essential data look like? Good, bad?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We haven't looked at
We
that.
haven't
No.
looked at it yet?
We got stuff going on.
It's been a sprint of
I was just so curious because I wanted you to say it looks amazing and we're going to come back next month and tell you all about it.
So I have another question. How much, and it goes back to the next part of it, how much are, because there's a big push for them not to be on devices as much. Like I'm reading 2 book studies for the summer
Yeah.
for that, and I know my district is really doing the push of them not being on the computers during ELA time. How much are our students on devices in a day? And then how much, especially because we're saying we're expanding our IXL implementation,
Yeah.
is that, I know you said that it's both, but like how many minutes are they on?
Not as much as you think. And again, it does ebb and flow, obviously, with different grade levels. So for example,
Not like 5 assignments on
No,
Excel
yeah.
for math, like, you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
yeah, it's.
Because we don't want them living on a device.
No, absolutely not. Well, and again, like, it's the wave of everything, right? It's
Yeah.
the new shiny thing gets all the attention and it becomes the new thing. I remember when iPads first became available for schools, and we're like, oh, everybody has to get an iPad. Then you realize how horrible it is to try to type on an iPad.
Yeah.
And then schools got Chromebooks, and then it kind of ebbs and flows. But I think about, for example, our math department in the middle school. Go back on the previous, before the current curriculum, the only book they had was an ebook. And so they'd pull their Chromebooks open when they were doing their math problems for the day, and they still have to do it on paper, but their Chromebook was their book. They're like, we don't want that. And part of it was functionality, and getting the kids to interact, but it's also, that's just an added layer they don't need. Now, everything we have has an e-component, but most of the teachers foundationally are going to be using consumables, which is a whole other conversation. It's hard to get a giant, thick book you can use for 10 years. That's all consumables now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of them have switched to that. So usually the stuff they're doing online is unique and value added. So again, I'll pick on social studies in middle school. If they're doing an activity online, it's not because, well, this is your book. It's because it's an extension of what they're doing. Like, you're going to go up and you're going to find 5 examples of the 10th Amendment or whatever it's going to be. So it's trying to do that. But again, like, for writing, there's not too many long-handed essays. It's going to be typing, which again, that's a tough thing because typing is a skill. If we don't practice it, it's one of those things that's the hardest thing right now. Like, I remember when I was in high school, I took a whole 9-week class of keyboarding, Mavis Beacon, word eraser, all that stuff. That guy was actually the superintendent of the schools now. Random thought, popped in my head. But it is one of those things that you have to develop any skill. And again, we know that so often if we're not providing the guidance or the education, it's left to just whatever they want. And again, the same reason why kids do get in trouble for misuse of computers or just disrespect to the computer. Of you see kids with the bag just slamming it around, like, whoa, you're responsible for that. That's again a privilege. You don't have to have that. So we are, I don't say we're not necessarily trying to avoid the online. We're trying to make sure that it makes sense and it's not just being online to be online.
Yes.
Yeah. All done?
Sorry for the 90 questions.
No, that's part of the gig. I enjoy it.
No.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
And I will look into the data and try to get that back to you guys.
So thank you.
Should we give an update on our health committee?
Yeah, and Sarah was there, and so we had our returns from Gallagher on, was it Tuesday? And so our original renewal was at 26 and a half, and Wendy was able to get that reduced to 19 and a half. So that's a total reduction for us of about $210,000. So our new money from the district standpoint for next year is going to be a little under 500,000, and so we're looking at being more aggressive this year on our on that health insurance committee meeting monthly, on having monthly conversations about what can we get out this month, and we've got that committee's come up with a laundry list of different ways that we can help people be more mindful of how they access health insurance, and so pretty optimistic about what we're going to be able to get done with that.
Did we get the data we had requested in regards to like where the largest increases or costs were coming from? We talked about like, is it outliers because just a few people had some major expenses? Is it like we're seeing an upward trend in, I don't know, diabetes care? Like, so we aren't just like shooting in the dark?
Sure, yeah, and just kind of in generalities, our loss ratio last year was a little over 100%. It was about 105%, which means that we actually had 5% more claims than we actually put in. Right now, the industry trend for both medical and prescription is over 10%. And so, the typical renewals right now, that Gallagher is seeing are in the low to mid-20s. And so, yeah, when you put all that together, and you also put into, anytime you have a renewal, Blue Cross also has to build in a buffer for administrative costs and to be able to get things done. So,
I just think if you're talking about like, how do we do a wellness committee, like just shooting in the dark and not knowing what type of wellness or where our claim costs are at that, like why are we not at 95%? Like where is
Yeah.
that number coming from? Is it, you know, sometimes and when you're self-insured, like, you know, 2 claims can totally change a year for you, but if we're seeing trends of, we're seeing this uptake and this in clinical weight loss, okay, well then maybe that's something that we need to be focusing on when we're trying to put dollars at the front end of it, as opposed to waiting until those become the multi-thousand-dollar claims, right?
yep, and that's the nice part about our, this is now year 2 of our biometric screen, and that actually, we added another, I don't know, 5% to it. I think the first year we had about 60% of our members take part in that, and I think this year was about 65%. So now we're starting to get trend data, and we don't see individual people's
Right.
results on that, but we do get that bulk data. And so now we're able to start utilizing that to see, okay, what are the different health pieces that we might wanna, as a wellness committee, look at.
I think the other thing that we've talked about several times, is, well, a couple things. One was plan structure, so potentially offering
Yep.
options that would be lower cost to individuals as well as us. And the other one was looking at potentially alternatives, like getting involved in like a First Stop Health or a Teledoc or something like that, where it's completely free for members to utilize that, as opposed to going to the doctor, and it lifts all of that.
Yeah, and that's something that in the wellness committee we've already talked about, starting to move forward with something like that.
So when do you think like some of these potential changes would come to fruition?
So now that we're through kind of the renewal section, again, we plan on having that committee meet monthly, so I would think that our first kind of next steps would come in June.
And how do we pick who's on that, not the board, but like how does the employees on that?
The association does, and we really haven't been, I think everybody has, I think we've been transparent about where we are with this. I think everybody's tried to be on board with it. I think the contract says you're only supposed to have somebody and somebody, but we've kind of added to that and tried to encompass more people in that conversation.
And are only association members receiving our insurance benefits?
No.
So there's no voice to people not in the association as part of this committee?
I don't think there are anybody.
Okay,
There-
so I think that would be, because oftentimes if you're an hourly employee, potentially the way you're looking at
Mhm.
cost savings and what you want, I understand we have kind of like the best of the best as far as like a Blue Cross family, PPO, 80/20, like we have a
Yeah.
great one, but if you're looking at a $15 an hour job,
And then like if that affects like contract negotiations, but they're not a part of the,
right, but if we're talking about a wellness committee meeting every month to try to find out other ways to lower like I just think there's a whole part of people missing, yeah.
You know, like the administrative assistants that work here.
now what was that?
TAs,
I left
HMP.
my folder with the notes from that meeting Tuesday in my truck. What was that list of like all the, like Lori's was one of the ones that they.
Yeah, so, Wendy did present that there's a separate kind of Blue Cross track that, has a more limited network. And so that's something that we really might want to really look at in the future. We also might wanna look, seriously about trying to get into, a cooperative in the future. The cooperative that we kind of, had conversations about over the last couple of years, they're actually in a period of kind of restructure. And so we're probably, looking at trying to get into that next year as opposed to this year, so.
Did we spit out to employees the numbers? I know we talked at the last meeting on what they've gone through the last.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've tried to be really transparent about where we are and where we've been.
Okay. For no other discussion, we can move on to the audit, 7.1. Any questions in regards to that? This is just the contract to invite this group to be the auditors again.
You bet, you bet. They've been with us a couple of years now. They were at the high school, even before that. They've done a nice job. They're thorough.
Any questions about it? You can have a motion on 7.1.
I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 26 audit, Lorenzo and Associates contract as presented.
Second.
I'll second.
Seconds, roll call.
Rack,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Cost,
Yes.
Landers,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Canitas.
Yes. Press policy 121. Any questions? As outlined in former meeting. The first read, mainly non-substantial changes. Any questions? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the press policy 121 as presented.
A second.
I'll second.
Sarah, and roll call.
Canitas,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Landers, Cost, Schrader,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
Rack.
Yes.
7.3, this was bringing up the cost of adult lunches more in line with what cost, correct?
It's, so, as we mentioned earlier with our participation in the CEP program for free lunches, part of the stipulations is that your adult lunches have to be within a certain amount of what our reimbursement is for students, and so we're just matching guidelines. Our adult lunches were too low.
Do we have a lot of adult participants in adult lunches?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't think so.
Cool.
Are we matching to the lowest guideline?
100%.
We were too low. Okay. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the increase of $1 for the adult lunch for 2027 school year.
I think it's just moving forward.
Oh,
We're
okay,
just
there you go.
changing the.
$1 for
Okay.
the adult lunch, there you go.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Cost,
Yes.
Landers,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
Canitas,
Yes.
Rack.
Yes.
All right, 7.4, authorization for administration processing fiscal year 27 state and federal grants. Any discussion? Okay, motion please.
I'll make a motion to authorize the administration to process all fiscal year 27 state and federal grants.
Second.
Sorry.
Seconds, roll call.
Espinoza,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Rack,
Yes.
Landers,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Cost, Canitas.
Yes. Tentative revision to the 26 budget as presented. This is the move of, no, that's separate.
Correct.
It's reflecting the changes though in our expenditures as initially forecasted.
Correct, yeah, and the auditors really like you to have a revised budget anytime that you miss in any particular fund, that you're gonna be off by more than 10%. And just by the way that our summer payments fell, when I put together the budget in the fall, I actually thought we had a couple of GRP Wegman payments made that were actually later, and so they just fell in a different fiscal year. And so our Fund 20 expenditure ended up being a little bit more than I had anticipated in the original budget.
Okay. No questions coming out of that, question 7.5?
I'll make a motion to approve the tentative revised fiscal year 26 budget as presented.
In a second,
I'll second.
Jenny, and roll call.
Cost,
Yeah.
Landers,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Canitas,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
Rack.
Yes.
So 7.6 6 is the financial transfer from fund to fund to cover those
Correct.
expenses you just talked a little bit about.
Yep.
So I was looking at that just now. Would you be able to maybe explain it one more time? Cause I see like
Of course.
money moving, like with the education, like how is that tied to like the summer projects or?
Yeah, and this is just accounting, right? It's just a pile of money, but the auditors have us use fund accounting, which we have to, by school law. And so one of the things that the auditors don't like to have is a negative balance in any of the particular funds at the end of the year, right? And so this is just moving money around so we make sure that we don't have that.
So, I think what you were asking though, like, so what's coming from Fund 20, which fund is that into Fund 10? Like,
Right, so last year, when we sold working cash bonds, then we moved all the working cash money into Fund 20, which is the building fund, operation and maintenance, right? And, in a perfect world, that money probably would have been moved to 3 different funds a year ago. To be able to forecast correctly of how everything would have been broken down. This is just then taking that big lump that we put in Fund 20 and making sure there's enough in transportation and education so that when we end the year, all those individual funds are in the black. So.
Yeah.
I have a motion for 7.6. Holly wants someone else to do it.
Thank you.
Amanda?
Make a motion to approve the cash transfers of $1 million from Fund 20 to Fund 10 and $300,000 from Fund 20 to Fund 40 in accordance with the presented resolution.
Second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Ooh.
Good job.
You wanna give it to over there. Reynolds, all right, it's up to Reynolds, all right.
Rapp,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Haas,
Yeah.
Cletus,
Yes.
Landers,
Yes.
and Reynolds.
Yes.
All right, our 26 calendar is presented.
Just throwing in the 2 days, like our cold day and our snow day, bumping everything back, wrapping up the calendar.
Make
That's
a
what we think
motion to
about it.
approve the final school year 2026 calendar as presented.
What happens if we don't approve it and we?
Do we get to school
Are we
the end
done
right
for-
now?
are we
It's already
done
over.
Tomorrow?
That was it, it was over today.
Hypothetically.
Right?
Good question.
I mean, we might really impact our funding and licensing and all of the other things, but, you know.
But wouldn't that
Let's
be
not do it.
interesting? Sorry, I just had to.
For that, I think you have to do the motion.
I move to approve the final, school year 26 calendar as presented.
In a second.
Second.
And, roll call.
Schrader,
Yes.
Haas,
Yep.
Landers,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
Rapp,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Cletus.
Yes. Our calendar waiver, this is to allow us to do the full day professional development, correct?
Yes, ma'am, on October 9th. And so, that coincides with the all-day training that the high school has, so they always have that day off, so that helps our calendars mesh, just an additional day. We've gone through all of the steps in the waiver process, including last night's, public hearing, at which I had 0 people show up.
I could have came if you wanted me to.
It's okay, I just sat out on the bench and enjoyed the weather for a little bit. And so then,
Just kidding,
so we'll get
sorry.
that waiver, approved, and, we'll have an amazing day on October 9th of teacher training.
If there are no questions, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the school year 27 calendar waiver as presented.
Second.
Amanda? Roll call.
Landers,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Cletus,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Rapp,
Yes.
Espinoza.
The track. So there was 2 different proposals, correct?
No, 2 different kind of thought concepts.
Okay.
Right? And so our track, it's 7 years old. You can get by without resurfacing a track for about 5 to 7 years. The rubber's not gonna last much longer than that. We had a lot of conversation last year about resurfacing it last year after year 6. And I kept saying, no, we can push it another year, it's gonna be 6 digits, it's a big number, let's push that as far as we can. And then when the track season started, it was starting to wear through in spots. And so we're to a point now where if we don't resurface it and we try to run on it another couple of years, it'll actually start damaging the base underneath, which is a whole separate cost to scrape the base off, redo the base, and then recover. So if we don't do this really now, then instead of $100,000 repair, we're looking at $250,000 repair because we're into the base. And so,
Are there any spots that if they like are fixing the top and they find, like, can they patch up any base issues? that
right
they
now,
find?
we have no base issues.
Oh, okay, good.
Right now, and so that's the important part of it, getting it done now. We had to have some emergency patching done this spring in order to have our events
Mhm.
this year. And that was in addition to having some patching done last fall.
Okay.
And so we had some patching done last fall, and then once they started running on it, after a couple weeks, they're like, we've got some more issues again, so we had to have some emergency patching done, so.
I was just making sure,
Yeah.
like, if they got in there and found areas to be worse than what we're thinking or something, if that would be a higher number if they
No.
got in there.
No, and this company is the company that is super familiar with the track, and so they're gonna do a great job.
And when is this gonna be done?
July.
Okay, and where are we getting the money out of this?
Yeah, so it'll be out of next year's budget.
Okay.
And, you know, if you'll recall, we are considerably, spending considerably less on facilities this summer as opposed to last. So last year, our total summer spend, was almost $2 million. This year's total summer spend on additional projects, even with this, is only gonna be about $350,000.
Okay, and we're gonna communicate that and make sure it's locked so that nobody can,
Yep,
okay.
of course. And since this was something that was really heavily discussed last summer, the track company, and you know the price of everything has gone up, the track company said, yeah, you should have done this last summer, we'll honor our quote from last summer, so.
I think they did ours right before track season started.
I have a couple of questions. So when we put the track in, there was a Friends of the Track group that formed, because the track is so heavily used as a community asset and extension. You know, we technically only use it for small little bits of time, and it's a huge community asset. So there was community funding that was received to replace the track. I think given that, again, it's not a closed lock door or closed lock gate that we only use for our gym classes and our track, it is by far used way more by non-school function than school function. I think approaching that same group or a different group, or talking with like I was gonna say talking with Annie or, you know, the city, that there's gotta be some other conversation, because this really is a community facility. I mean,
Sure.
between soccer and football and people walking on it and, you know, groups practicing and things happening,
Shouldn't be only our expense.
right, the wear and tear is escalated because of the use of it. So I would really like us to see about talking to some people about that again.
Yep, you got it.
I really do think it was called Friends of the Track.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And quite a bit of money was raised through that
I
group.
think there was a flyer back in the day.
And then the other question is, with the timing of it, have we discussed the people that primarily utilize it, like the junior tackles and
Yeah,
stuff?
we'll be fine with all of it.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, for sure.
And
Like,
do
I
we
can definitely-
charge rental for?
So we don't charge a rental currently for anything. I think one of the conversations that we've started to have internally actually is, if we don't wanna start charging something during track season for other schools. Because, there are very few schools in our conference that have their own track.
Yeah, but even like the totally not school related stuff that gets used there on any other pieces.
There used to be, it was back when I ran the YMCA programs, there was an intergovernment agreement that if community organizations wanted to use school facilities, for example, like YMCA programs back in the day, wanted to use, cause I used Blackstone when I ran the programs, there was no charge in that. way
But
back
there was
then.
an agreement between the Y.
It was actually any organization, but now that the city has created
Yeah, that's
MOUs for any sports team to use any facility.
There's a $500 fee
Yeah.
for any sports team to use any property on the city now.
Yeah.
I don't say I agree or disagree,
Yeah, I
but it's
don't
out
either.
there happening.
But I think this is a perfect opportunity to approach the people that do regularly schedule
Yes.
events there, because it does cost more when people are on our bleachers every weekend and walking the track, and we have to empty the trash cans and all the things
Oh, no, I
that
agree.
go, the parking and everything else, like,
The grass and.
right. So I think if we talk to the people that we know are very regular users of it as an organization, I think we can say, hey, like, we're not looking to move necessarily this huge step, but should it be all of our expense? Cause if we shut and lock that gate, our stuff's gonna look great, but
Right.
that wasn't the point, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No, those are great conversations, for sure.
So if we're not doing this till July, can I ask the question of, do we need to approve it now?
We do, because this company only has so many spots, and they're holding a spot for us in order to get the work done. So, yeah.
So as far as payment, when is payment
It
due?
won't be till August.
So,
New fiscal year.
right,
Right.
So the conversation would need to be rapid.
yeah, I would say like,
Yeah, and I don't know that, I mean, I understand how the two conversations are definitely related, right? But, us getting this work done
It's
doesn't.
gonna have to be done anyways.
It's gonna, and not only that, but, that doesn't mean that we still don't have those conversations, that we still don't go down all those.
right,
avenues.
I guess what I would say is, okay, if the district's making a $100,000 investment without any kind of pitch-in or whatever, then after the work's done, July 10th, the doors are, like, the gates are locked,
Could be,
right?
right,
Like,
that
we're gonna
could-
protect our investment, or it becomes a community investment, like, it's one or the other. So I would like us to really
And
focus prior to that work being done on,
Yeah. Yeah, you bet, I can definitely have an update on that in June.
Well, and I think that's important, especially now, because isn't, the city's taking over a lot of the YMCA things, and they should, why can't they help support the,
I mean, can, like, if we start to have those conversations beginning of the summer, and we get some groups to agree that use it a lot, like how can a motion look as far as us approving to do it and pay for it? Like, will they pitch in and just pay the school, or like, if we're not paying for it till the work's done? You know what I mean, like, how
Well, it has to be
would
done
that look?
every, 5 years, and they could start doing a stipend annually and build that up for when we have to do it again as well, or something along those lines.
we can approach it, I would think we could approach the conversation as the district's going to make the spend every 5 to 7 years, no matter what, but hey guys, like, we're trying to keep this being a community asset, so to offset at least 25% or whatever we think is a fair number,
Mhm.
like, the groups that utilize this almost every day in the summer, you know, we're looking to be not charging an official necessarily rental fee, but like an impact fee almost, right?
Right.
Of some sort, and
Right.
so if we know that it costs $100,000 every 5 years at least,
Yep.
then how do we divide that out? It's $20,000 a year. We expect that at least 25% of that come from the organizations that are using, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yep.
think if we can kind of come up with something like that.
Yep.
So if all we're doing is approving the work project, then I really would like
Yeah,
to
that's
hold us accountable to, in June, figuring out what that source of finance looks like.
You bet.
Well, and I think going back to what Teresa's saying, like, we can also go, hey, like some of the financing by, you know, instead of going to an all-day tournament at Earlville for soccer, let's host one here, make the money on, and then we don't have to bus teams, host a tournament, you can make maybe on the gate and, you know what I mean, and showing off the facility once it's done. Like, we could host an all-day tournament here on a Saturday for soccer instead of going somewhere else. You know, just ideas that former AD background.
What were you gonna say, Brenda?
Well, I'm just wondering, organizations like Maze and, football and the rest, do they have that kind of revenue coming in? I mean, I'm, most of those things are run on a shoestring. I mean, they're not making a heck of a lot, they've got all volunteer coaches,
Right. But I think, like, even if they were to say, hey, football, we're out here 5 days a week and all 100% of our games are here all summer long. If the school locks the gate, we don't have an organization anymore. So when we look at doing our fundraisers this summer, let's think about, like, maybe a percentage of our fundraisers and we shoot for a higher target or what. I'm not saying like they have to pay it out of their pocket today, but I think we have to change especially
That
the
they
city
use
do
it
what
for
they're
nothing.
doing. Right, right. I mean, using them for nothing, it still costs us, right?
Yep.
We still have to switch out scoreboards and paint things and empty trash cans and do what, like,
The city had no about creating their minimum on their MOU to use any of the park fields. Then
so like it is Maze and like the Little League, are they all paying to use?
yeah, $500, and if there's an emergency call out to one of the bathrooms, it's $100 an hour or whatever. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they just instituted it, we're trying to maybe take a softer approach.
Yes.
And allow the option of the company, or the organizations to work out how
Yes.
they could help, but if we're met with no, then I think we need to reevaluate
Yes.
the openness of our facilities, right?
Yeah. No, I get.
Like, that's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where are we at with, speaking of it, since it's tied to
Haven't
the
heard-
same
haven't-
property,
haven't
it's
heard
part of the
anything.
same property.
That was a question that I asked
I
before you walked in.
for that.
You know, because it
It's
was
all
such a
one
big
property.
push.
Where's that?
Haven't heard anything.
Interesting.
Kinda like the playground still at Strauss Park, that's
Maybe
not
we'll
that.
sell it now.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep, you bet.
Alright, so this is us agreeing to do the work that's necessary, but we expect in June that there would be by June, there'd be some movement around what our other organizations are thinking in the city
Yeah,
and some other groups.
yeah, and what that offsetting revenue looks like,
Okay.
for sure, you bet.
Alright, can we have a motion please?
I'll make a motion to approve the track resurfacing as presented. Second.
Seconds, roll call.
Espinosa.
Yes.
Rapp.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
Cost.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Komitas.
Yes. IT hardware, this was Chromebooks and some of the smart technology in the classroom.
Correct. So this is our typical Chromebook refresh. We refresh every year at second and fifth grade, and so all of that's standard. But one of the things that we're doing differently this year is we had a great beta test with our teachers that were interested with smartboard technology. We had 9 different teachers across Lincoln and Northbrook, and of those 9, they each got to spend roughly a month with a smartboard, so it wasn't just a week or something to really be able to dive in and get a little training and to see how they can use it to better engage kids. And of the 9, when we got the survey data back after their test, of the 9, 8 of them were like, I use it all the time, this is a game changer, this is, I mean, so they're all like our technology forward, right? And so, this is also, a proposal to now get those 9 smart boards permanently. Or sorry, those 8 out of 9. And so then, next year, we'll just continue to walk this through. We'll open it up for another, 8 or 10 teachers throughout the course of this year, just to see who would like to test it and, spend some time with it and dig in. And those teachers that are really gonna use it, and it's really gonna be impactful, then we'll get them as well.
Questions on that? Are they going to be, attached, or will they be movable, like the one that, when we were at Lincoln? Will it be on its own little thing that it can move to different rooms?
Yeah, so.
Or will it be
so
attached to the floor or to the wall?
No, so these that we're purchasing are gonna be attached to the
Okay.
wall. Because they're gonna be in that teacher's classroom.
Okay.
Those kids are gonna get used to using it every day. That teacher's gonna get used to using it every
And,
day.
and what
And
brand are they?
but we will still have, the 3 that we currently have on movable carts, and those are the ones that will go around and continue to.
Do
to
those
get tested.
teachers know that it's no longer gonna be a mobile thing? Like, I don't know if any
Oh,
of
for
them
sure.
liked to
Yeah,
turn
there's,
it
and
to
that's
be-
been part of the process. We've only had feedback from one of the 8 saying, I think I'd like to have this on the cart, and so, we're gonna have a conversation about whether or not we can get them, kind of a flexible mount, and so, we're trying to.
Cause I can see the benefits for certain situations, I don't know about some of the rooms, if it's
Yeah.
feasible, but like being able to change the location of where it's
Yeah.
at.
Is it
Yeah.
also a subscription service, or is it just a flat out buy?
Just a flat out buy, Promethean.
And I just think in my head of all the old obsolete, items, electronics always, we used to have the overhead projectors and then we had the big TVs, and is this a great purchase, or is it something that?
As a classroom
not being
teacher,
in the
yeah.
classroom?
I
And
feel like
that's-
it replaces the projector
Yeah.
and all the things.
And that's why, we're taking our time. We're not just saying, hey, we're gonna buy 80 of these and everybody gets it,
Mhm.
right? I don't anticipate, if we've got whatever the number is, 75 or 80 teachers, I don't anticipate this being, at the end of the day, maybe in a third of the rooms, right? It's only the people who are gonna engage it, embrace it, really have it change the way that they engage. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's more than that, but we're not just gonna mass wholesale it and just.
You'd probably see more of it at your K1, 2, 3, maybe 4, just because of the technology with all the things, but as a classroom teacher, very used, and we have Promethean, so.
I think the high school added those two.
Yeah, but it's just something that, it's something in addition to, so we wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of where we were in concept.
And just a little side note, if you train your in-house subs also on these, because I've been thrown into that situation where they had,
Oh,
and
right.
you're like,
That is very true. I would agree with that, but I guess I've always been able to, just figure it out. But
Yeah.
if you don't know how to use
Especially if
them.
you have a lot of retired teachers that are
Yeah.
teaching you, that may not have had the technology.
All good things? Please, a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the IT hardware for school year 27 as presented.
Second? I'll second. Jen? Okay.
Comitas?
Yep.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Landers?
Yes.
Haas?
Yes.
Schrader?
yes,
Spinoza?
Yes.
Rapp? Yes.
Countywide sales tax.
Yes, so, we had another meeting this week of LaSalle County Superintendents, just so we have a little background. So we're talking about the 1% countywide sales tax, doesn't impact, doesn't impact groceries, but you would have to pay it if you went out to eat. It doesn't impact farm machinery, medicines, there's a whole laundry list. In LaSalle County, the 1% sales tax for all schools would generate in the neighborhood of $15 million. Our share of that would be in the neighborhood of $1 million. We already get this from the, Socorro, what's the number,
Lee.
80 kids that we have in Lee County, give or take. So we already get, I don't know, $100,000 from Lee County, right? That we get this, but this is an effort to get that on the ballot. In order to do that, you have to have school boards representing 50% or more of the students in the county. And right now, we're already over 60%. Of superintendents who've talked to their boards, boards have said, yes, this is something we're interested in. So the next step now is a formal board resolution to put it on the November ballot. And we're looking at then in kind of June, July, I think it has to be, all boards would have to certified by the end of August in order to get it on the November ballot. And so now we're in the process of starting to have boards actually pass the resolution to put it on the ballot, and so that'll come next month in June.
Is there anyone stepping forward, or is there any talk around, like, who's going to lead the educational campaign associated with it?
That's next week's meeting.
Okay.
Right.
I'm
'Cause
gonna
it
be a
will-
big part of it.
It will never
Yeah.
work if people don't understand, cause the
Yes.
language is horrible
And
about
it just sounds bad, but
Yeah.
it's so good.
Right, well, especially in this community where so much of our schools can be funded by people that don't even live here to pass through traffic on 80 and 39. There's just so many places and ways to.
In my career, I'm 3 out of 6 of passing referenda.
It's not that good.
Not that good, it's 50%. If we do it twice, it's gonna pass.
No, we're only doing it once.
Yeah.
Well, the state did, like, multiple times have come forward and said that they were gonna try to pass something to say that it's gonna be statewide, and they would get the money and then distribute it, which we know we would never see, so I really hope that doesn't ever come to fruition, but,
Yeah, and the thing is with LaSalle County and Star Rock and
yeah, all of
the
it.
2
All
million
the
visitors that,
tourism, oh my
that
goodness.
trek through that place.
But that's where I say, like, you've gotta have a company that's gonna run those numbers, to go like, the impact on residents is
Yep.
expected to be this, and this much of our education is funded by outside visitors, non-essential expenditures, like, if there's so much of it, otherwise it'll just be no, they don't need any more of my taxes, look at my bill.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, you know, just as a quick aside, for every dime, like countywide, all schools, for every dime that we can keep school tax rates down, that dime costs LaSalle County farmers $750,000, a dime. And so, this is so great for so many people.
But that's like the ag, then that needs to be going out through the ag too, to get that group. But like, have you guys talked about, like, I know there are consultant groups that literally just do
Yep.
this,
Yep,
like,
Yep,
figuring
that's
out
part-
what
that's
that
part of
might
the
look like
conversation.
and how much everybody would have to pitch in, and
yep.
it would pay for itself if it gets passed.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Cause it has tried here and not worked.
Yeah, but it's been a hot minute.
Mm-hmm,
It was
oh
like a
yeah, it's been
decade
plenty
ago.
of time.
Yeah.
Plenty of time. Okay. And nobody else is doing referendum from our LaSalle, like, no one's looking to go like after bond referendum or
I
anything?
don't think so.
Okay. Alright, cool. Anything else? Wonderful. Motion to adjourn,
Make a motion to adjourn at 8:11.
second? Second?
Second.
Amanda seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
What time is the end of the year?
Look at my special
28.
pin I got.
Did you realize I had
I'm gonna wear it around.
just look at